Hey, Magnar here, and this is Total War Warhammer, a modder's take. Now what I want to show you in this vid is some new mechanics and features of Total War Warhammer that we as modders could really exploit, and but more than just what's new in Warhammer, I want to show mechanics and features which I want to actually be in future Total War titles as well, because I really like them having finally been added. So let's start with buildings. Now I've got a campaign here. I'm in as the Empire, which has been going for a while already, but I can find some buildings to show you one of the new things which I think is really good, and that is the ability to allow a unit to require multiple buildings to be recruited. So you can see here, for instance, Outriders require a gunsmith plus this livery building to be able to be recruited. And I think that opens up a lot of options for modders, both in this title and in historical titles as well. Then we also have the ability to have research unlocked via buildings. So it's not just like you're researching every single turn like in Attila or Rome 2. You actually have to create this building, for instance the foundry for these techs here, to be able to research it. I think that makes a lot more sense. You know, you need to have the infrastructure to kind of invent, as opposed to, like, so in Rome 2 and Attila, the only thing that buildings do is change the rate at which you're researching, and not whether or not you are researching. So research is more becomes more of a luxury, as opposed to you just expect to be constantly researching. Now another one which I think a lot of people would have loved to see in Rome 2, and that is the ability not only for minor settlements to have walls, but for them to be linked to buildings. So you can see here this building chain will allow a wall, so he adds walls to the settlement. And to keep that into future titles I think would be great. Okay, so that's what I like the most about the new building features. I mean, we can also rename stuff, but I'm not going to get into that because that's more aesthetic as opposed to mechanical. Okay, so the next part is stances. The military stance with raiding now actually displays, let me just get this go away. It displays the amount that you are taking in raiding income. So go to raiding. You can see here the amount that you're getting. Now, that's just a UI thing, but what I like from the mechanic side of things is that income you get will change over time. So it's not always you're getting 96, it's depending on how much the region has already been raided. So I like that as a touch, and it's much more realistic, and that's what I'm a big fan of. Now we have also a new politics screen where you have all the different political offices, and in a kind of a hierarchy structure, which I quite like, as opposed to just like a linear structure, or even worse in Rome 2 as a just as an ancillary, which you can't really visualize as much. So I like that they've got in this kind of hierarchical pyramid kind of structure, kind of allows you to visualize the which is the superior officers and such, and as you fill them with your characters. Then we have another feature here which is called banners. So followers are like ancilliaries in the traditional sense of Attila and Rome 2, where they're just giving a character effect, such as campaign, movement range, or replenishment rate. Now, but banners are something a little bit different. Now, what a banner is, when you go to fight a battle, you get banners that you can assign to units. Now, the way I see this being a great use for this I can see is, say, with Rome, you give the eagle standard to one of your units to carry it into battle, and kind of I like that it adds that kind of aspect to it. Or it was a great honour to carry the banner or the flag or the standard, whatever you have, and that that has its associated effect there. So you can do that, and you can assign them to individual units. Unfortunately, I didn't see a change in the unit's appearance. Like, it doesn't actually physically carry that banner, but I think that would be like to go one step further. I think it would be great if they keep that in future titles, to actually see the unit officer of the unit actually carrying the banner that it's assigned. That'd be a great little connection there between the campaign side and the battle side. And then we get to the next part, and that is to do with the military management. So let me start off by showing this one after a battle. So I'm just going to auto-resolve this so that I can show you. So you get your decisive victory, and look, we get loot with a nice big UI display showing us that we're actually getting money from it, and the banners and such you get from battles as well. So I like that you're actually getting loot from the equipment of the dead, the army you've defeated. Now, let me just get out of here. The next part is the ability to recruit globally as opposed to just locally. So you've got global and local recruitment. So I think we have to go into, unfortunately I think we have to go into in vanilla we have to go to a raiding stance, I think, to be able to recruit from the global pool, maybe, or maybe not. Okay, so here we have a global pool and a local pool. But the global pool has an increase in time, as was done in previous titles, but it also has an increase in cost. So you can see a comparative unit here. We have the halberdiers. To recruit them locally, it costs 650, and to recruit globally, it's almost twice as much. So I like that, kind of to simulate the costs of actually transporting the unit to its actual army. So it gives you the flexibility not to have to micromanage where your armies are, but also it comes at a cost. Again, increased realism, which I'm always a big fan of. And the final thing is which is actually only used by the greenskins. So with the greenskins, they have this mechanic called fightiness. Sorry. Now this is like an army integrity that you have in Attila, but with the added change to it that different levels of fightiness have effects. So here, for instance, you get a warg army that joins you. I mean, of course, in a historical title, you probably wouldn't get a warg army, but you'd get you could probably attach some other effect to it. So I like that integrity actually, or fightiness in Warhammer, actually has effects attached to it at different levels, as opposed to just saying, oh, if it goes below this level, then something happens. But rather, if you get really high integrity, then something happens, and if you get kind of low, then something happens. If you get really low, then something else happens. So that's kind of layered effects that are implemented into it. So that's a step in the right direction, I think, from the army integrity that was added into Attila, and then now coming a bit further on with a bit more of layered effects to it. And so far, that's most of the things that I've seen, which I think modders will have a good time playing around with regards to the new mechanics. I mean, that will actually hopefully be in future titles. I mean, there's always a bunch of other stuff which is more specific to Warhammer, like flying units and other things like that. But that's not really what I wanted to focus on. So I hope you liked the little sneak peek of Attila, of Warhammer, and happy modding.